Welcome to another episode of The American Dream, the only show that goes against the grain of that negative media, where our goal is to educate, empower, and engage your American dream. Got a great show lined up for you with some inspiring guests. Of course, as we do the show, don't forget you can also follow us on social media, AmericanDreamNetwork.tv. That being said, we got a show to do. Let's start it right now. Every single day, you are consumed with information. The 24/7 negative news cycle and the pop culture that's polluting the airways, all selling out for the ratings game. Well, guess what? There's a more positive way to look at life. You live in the greatest city in the greatest country on the planet. And every day with our elite network of professionals, our goal is to educate, empower, and engage. And now it's time to fight for your American dream. All right, talk is cheap. Today, the sewing shout out. We are going to honor those who are actually out there doing it. How many life coaches do you see online that, what are they really even teaching you? You know what teach you about life? Life. There's so many business people doing the same thing. So on today's show, we got something really special for you. You're gonna hear from some amazing experts in our interviews, but these are all people that are actually doing it. Grant Cardone, this guy just did an event with 10,000 people. Great guy to follow online and get advice from him about real estate investing. Joyce Ray out of LA. She has the biggest listing in the country right now, and she's gonna be giving you real estate advice, having been in the business for 43 years. Rich Fettke, 43,000 followers that subscribe for free that they are giving advice to while they're out there actually buying real estate properties. Now, I know a lot of this centers around real estate, but whether it's homes, mortgage, finance, consumer advocacy as a whole, or the entrepreneurial spirit, we want to make sure the people that we bring on the show are actually doing it. That's today's sewing shout out, and I hope you can check it out. Follow us, engage on social media. Let's go start it right now. Well, they say about entrepreneurs, we are risk takers. How about bungee jumping off of a half dome? The only person to ever do it in the X Games, Rich Fettke, joins us on the show.
Great to be here.
You're like, man, I thought we were going to come here and talk about my podcast
right.
and real estate advice. So, the X Games?
Well, you know, we focus in our business on helping people create freedom in their lives, freedom of time, and freedom of money. So I need something to do in my free time. So jumping off a bridge, jumping off half
almost
dome.
Kill yourself. All right, got it. So you are the co-CEO of Real Wealth Network. Your wife, Kathy, comes on the show with us all the time. Good to have you on here. You guys have 37,000 subscribers that are getting advice from you about the real estate market, how to create cash flow. Tell us a little bit about the actual organization.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, we started in 2003. We thought we were going to have this little group to help investors get into investment properties. We thought it would be a couple hundred people, and yeah, 37,000 members today.
Wow.
And so basically what we do is we help people find cash flowing income properties around the country.
Okay.
Passive income, so they don't have to, basically, they get to be job optional. So creating passive cash flow that comes in every month, so they don't have to work forever.
So 37,000 members. Are a lot of those people just paying for advice, membership, something along those lines?
Membership is free.
Free?
It's been free since day one. We've always called ourselves the anti-guru because there's so many gurus out there selling expensive courses.
Yeah, of course.
So our whole focus is, can you get that money into cash flowing investment
properties?
Okay,
so you're giving away knowledge for free.
Yes.
And then ultimately, it's raising capital to buy these properties?
There's two parts of the business. One, we have affiliates around the country with single-family homes with a tenant in place, all fixed up to rent-ready condition. So our members will purchase one of those investment properties, usually a few of them, to get that monthly cash flow.
Wow.
And so we educate those 37,000 members. Of those, about half are actually investors who, you know, you can educate people as much as you can, but you can't push them into action. So we kind of create the path so they can actually get into an investment property in a safer way, in a way that's, they're not trying to do it on their own.
You know, you use the term anti-guru. There's a lot of people that are in this space that are throwing around some pretty phony stuff.
Yeah.
You know who they are.
Yeah.
How do we protect people from that? What are those organizations doing wrong? I just continue to hear these like wildly expensive packages on how to learn how to do this stuff. I have a 21-year-old cousin who's like, we're thinking about signing up for this. I'm just like, oh, no.
No, we've met people come into our network and they've spent $50,000. There's one woman, $50,000 on education and hadn't bought a single investment property.
Right, that money could have bought an investment property.
Absolutely, yeah. She could have a cash flow. She could have $500 a month every every month coming into her mailbox, basically.
So for all the people out there that are like her, give us some real takeaway knowledge here on how do you get started? I mean, how do you get into this? How much money do you need? How would you advise people to get out of the gates?
I think the simple thing, I mean, you want to have, to get into your first investment property, you want to have about $50,000 or $60,000 because you want to have a little bit in reserves, just, you know, just in case you go for a month without a renter or something like that. But there's properties in this country what you can pick up for, you know, $60,000, $70,000. So if someone has decent credit and about $50,000, you can definitely get into investment property.
Are you helping people go at this alone? Are you pooling money together amongst? I mean, would you take 3 people that had $50,000 and buy a $150,000 property? Are you doing things like that as well?
In one way, yeah. We do group investments and syndication. So there's the single family property path, where people usually it's just they're buying their own single family property, they own it 100%.
Right.
But we also have a group of investors. We'll find a deal like there'll be say like in Reno, Nevada. There's 600 acres. We purchased that. Investors pooled their money, purchased that property. Then our developer that we're working with got all the pads ready, everything all ready to go for home sites, and then we'll flip that to a big home builder.
Got it.
Yeah.
What do you think about the housing market as a whole?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
I know every market's going to be a little bit different. You guys are finding the nooks and crannies. What do you think as a whole, though?
Well, there's 2 parts to that. I think it's like saying, you know, what do you think about the weather in our country as a whole, right?
Right.
It's all different climates and all that. So there's no really U.S. housing market. You hear that a lot, but we see that, you know, what is not going to work over here, like I wouldn't advise someone to buy in San Francisco right now for a rental property, or usually any time because it's not going to cash flow. But there's markets where you can do that are really good.
What markets do you like?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is really good. It's number 2 to Hollywood in film production, so they're doing some great things.
Okay.
Cleveland, Ohio is great. Jacksonville, Florida. So there's we got about 12 to 14 markets right now. Like kind of comes and goes, ebbs and flows. But around the country that we've looked at, vetted, and looked at where's the path of progress, where are people going.
How do you ease the concern of the long distance thing, right? If you're helping people all across the country get into this, I've owned properties in other parts of the country, and it's not always easy with the property managers feeling disconnected. So how do you navigate that? You
know, it's funny because in the past, it used to be never buy an investment property that's more than 30 minutes away from your house. You know, it's before the internet, before video and all that stuff. So now what we do as a company is we go out and we find these property managers that we vet, we look at their reputation, their quality, and then we're almost like a Yelp for our investors.
Okay.
So we're keeping an eye on these property managers. When our members come back and say, this isn't working out so well over here, then we'll reach out and say, hey, clean your act up. This is like first warning. We're not going to refer to you anymore. We'll refer to someone else. So
that's such a key ingredient. You know, when I owned some duplexes back pre-market crash, and it was the property managers that were taking me for the run.
Right.
And I didn't have someone advising me or vetting them, which sounds like you guys do. I think that's a key ingredient that should give a lot of people confidence to at least check you guys out. You got the podcast going.
Yeah, the Real Wealth
5,000 biggest growing companies. Really cool stuff. And then realwealthnetwork.com.
Yep, that's the best place to go. Membership is free and all the education's there.
It's free. Get some knowledge. You got a little bit here today. If you want to follow these guys, realwealthnetwork.com. Rich and Kathy Fettke, good friends of the American Dream. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. More of the American Dream coming up next. All right, welcome back to the American Dream. I love business stories. I love the entrepreneurial journey, and I love people that just come up with great ideas. We got all that combined into one. I don't even know how to explain it. Daniel Kosh, you're the Chief Growth Officer with BizX. You and I were chatting before we came in. I was like, you know what? Dude, I'm tossing you a beach ball because it's really cool. So you've developed a community amongst businesses and a currency within it. So please, explain this.
Well, that was actually pretty good. I'm going to write that down.
It was lucky.
That was really good.
I was just like, so a little verbal vomit there.
It's good though. No, you're right. It's a community of business owners and a currency that they all use. Ultimately, what BizX is it's exactly what you said, a community of thousands of business owners. So we have just about 6,700 now participating.
Okay.
And what they do is they're able to find each other, leverage each other's strengths, learn from each other, but most importantly, they are able to buy and sell amongst each other with a digital currency that's called BizX dollars.
Okay, so clue in here. This is where it's about to get really interesting.
Yeah.
Putting you on the spot, will you pull out that card again?
Yeah.
Like, don't knock off your microphone as
we're
doing the interview. But
yeah.
So they got a card
yeah.
that is a card that can be used
at any of these vendors.
Right. So give me an example.
Yeah. So
give us a real life example.
So the rooting of our concept is we're looking to reinvent transactions and potential for small, medium-sized businesses. And what we did is we looked at barter, which was the original form of commerce.
Sure.
And we said, how do we trading? I have this, you have that, we
for
trade.
A sheepskin or
exactly.
whatever, right? Like old school.
Well, that's right. And it was the original form of commerce that was usurped by currency for one reason, which is that it's liquid.
Yeah.
So we don't have to have how much grain is worth how many chickens.
Sure.
And what if you don't need chickens? Then, or whatever.
Right.
So
but I get the concept.
So what we did, our vendors, they buy and sell amongst each other with this currency that they all accept. One way that they're able to buy is with this, through the app, through the website. But here's a real life example. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. If I'm a restaurant and you're a painter,
okay,
and I need to get my place touched up, it's going to cost me $2,000, whatever the case may be. As a business owner, and cash is always scarce to a local business owner, I'm going to try to find someone to trade with me. And this is outside of BizX. So I'm going to call you up and I'm going to say, Craig, this is a $2,000 job. I know that through historical. Can I give you a $2,000 tab? And if you at the restaurant, and if you like my food and you've got the spare time, great deal. But all of those coincidences rarely line up. So in our world, what would happen is, so I become a BizX member. I'm a restaurant owner. We've got 6,700 members who all have BizX dollars. So just by joining, I will earn BizX dollars through new customers that I haven't gotten because they can come and eat and not spend any cash. So there's a motivator there.
Okay.
Now I accrue a balance. So say people come in and eat lunch, they pay me $100 BizX, the check comes, they put this down, they pay gratuity in cash. Now I've got 100 BizX that came from a table that otherwise would have been empty. Something breaks in my bathroom, like a sink is leaky. So instead of going to Google to find a handyman, I go to BizX, to the network, and I find a handyman. Call him up, I say, hey Craig, you're the handyman in this scenario.
Okay.
Craig, this is Dan, I found you in BizX. I got a problem my sink is leaking. Can you come by and fix it? You say, yes, I can be by tomorrow at 11. So you come by, you do the job, and I pay, just say it's $100.
Sure.
I pay you 100 BizX. You, by definition, you only got that call because you were willing to accept the BizX.
Right, you accepted.
That's why you got it.
Now you got the credit.
So in other words, you turn wasted time into value.
Okay, so you basically open up new channels of opportunity.
Then you spend that.
So that right there, because my next question was going to be, what's the advantage? I think that's it, right? Is the fact that by being in this community, you're opening yourself up to business you wouldn't have had?
You get new customers you wouldn't have had otherwise, and they pay you in a network currency that's equal to the dollar. And then you spend those right back in the network, so it's new customers, but then you improve your cash flow. Because when I served those 2 new customers who were eating at my restaurant, and I accrued a balance, great, new customers. When I spent that on you, where I otherwise would have had to pull a $100 bill out of my register, I improved my cash flow.
A lot of this cryptocurrency that people are talking about, it's so hard for them to, it's not a tangible thing. People just don't understand it. And by the way, by people, I mean like me, right? It's a complicated thing. What I think is really interesting about this is you're building relationships, right? You're building a network, a community, and a real life interaction that wouldn't have been there before if you hadn't created this community of like credit.
You got it.
Currency.
You nailed it. You nailed it. So the value of the network itself, beyond the transactional, financial, very material value, the value purely of the network is massive. I mean, networks have changed the way we live, right?
Sure.
Networks have shrunk in the world.
I mean, that's what social media is.
No question. And so for us, our big why ultimately is to be a resource, really the resource for small and medium-sized business owners who are fighting for their lives. So small and medium-sized business owners represent over 99% of all businesses in the United States of America. And they deliver a third of the total GDP, roughly $7 trillion. And they waste $2 trillion worth of capacity. They have available for sale that goes unsold. And so, and it's hard to support this group.
So like the painter who has extra paint.
No question, the empty table at the restaurant, the unsold ad pages, the empty hotel room, the stall at the auto mechanic that's just empty.
Sure.
And so, we look at this and we say, well, how do we support this group? And it's really through those 2 things, which is how to help them leverage their spare capacity to earn additional revenue and use that revenue to offset
And tap into new sources of commerce they would have never had.
Exactly.
I think it's fascinating.
So we've got these 6,700 members. Last year they transacted $100 million between each other in the network, all just like we've talked about.
100 million bucks.
Yeah, all that wouldn't have existed otherwise.
How do people find out about you? I'm assuming that a good person to reach out to would be someone who owns a business, right?
Yeah, so it's all business owners,
okay.
And it's a B2B network. So the proportion of each industry vertical to the total network is relative to what businesses demand. So media is our #1 industry.
Okay.
Because it's ubiquitous, all businesses can use it, and small and medium-sized business owners sometimes don't think they have the resources to get it.
Sure.
To advertise, right?
Got it, yeah.
So each of these networks and business owners go to our website. It's bizx.com. It's free to join, free to be a part of it. We charge transaction fees, so a small fee on every dollar transacted.
That's how you make your money.
That's how we make our money, but it's free to be a part of it outside of that. But our members, actually, to answer your question directly, BizX has grown because our members have grown it. Because there's inherent value that increases the more members that join.
Sure.
So members reach out and they refer each other, and yeah, that's how.
Love it. Daniel Kosh, Chief Growth Officer with BizX, bizx.com. I think it's a great story. I'm going to be really interested to watch your journey over the next 6, 12, 18 months. But you're in this world now that the game's changed.
Yeah.
The game's changed. You guys are tapping into it. I think it's fascinating. Daniel, thanks for coming on the show.
Man. Appreciate it.
All right, more of the American Dream coming up next.
We have a winner! Johnny, you won! You won! Grandma?
There are certain times in life when you need a neutral third party to call the shots.
I wasn't ready. I know, but I wasn't ready. You hear me?
Keep it fair. Choose Oakwood Escrow.
So when we talk about the state of the real estate market on this show, who better to interview than Joyce Ray, who's closed over $4 billion worth of real estate sales, been in the business for over 40 years, an elite expert in the real estate space, coming out of LA. Joyce, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate you.
Well, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you, Craig.
So you've seen your fair share of markets. How do we look today? What do you think about the housing market?
Well, certainly in Los Angeles, it's out of this world. I think the rest of the country's experienced a bit of a slowdown, especially in the luxury space. But here, our market's on fire. We have a housing shortage, we have tremendous demand, and we've seen a strengthening of prices over the last year.
Talk to us about how the luxury market acts a little bit differently than the median price range. What do you see differently? Who's buying, who's selling, how are we selling it, how are we taking it to market? What are you seeing in that higher price range?
Most people decide to sell in a market like we have now because they can take profits. Because a lot of people look at houses investments here because the upward trend has been so terrific. We have buyers from all around the world, from the Mideast, from Europe, from Asia, South America, not so much, but the demand is worldwide because the price per square foot here in our market is substantially lower than any other luxury market in the world.
So let me ask you this. Historically, you've had some of the highest sales in the history of our country. Give us a good story or two about some of the other luxury properties in the past that you've sold.
Well, my favorite story is perhaps my first big sale, which was Sonny and Cher's house. In Holmby Hills, it's now named Owlwood, and it was on 3.8 acres. And I sold it in 1976, and you'll laugh, for $1.2 million.
Wow.
And I resold it in 1978 for $4.2 million. So that goes to show you the trajectory of the market even back then.
Does that house still exist today?
That house still exists today.
What do you think it would appraise for?
Well, it was sold a year and a half ago with a couple of neighboring properties added for $90 million.
Oh, $90 million. All right, got it. Now, you're still very active in the space. That's obviously why we bring you on the show, to be a wealth of knowledge on what's happening in this crazy luxury market, but tell us about some of the deals you have going right now.
Well, I have a terrific listing right now, which isn't in the multiple listing service. It's off market, so to speak. And it's 6.7 acres. It's in Beverly Hills. It's 3 parcels. It was built originally by Daniel K. Ludwood, who was once the richest man in the world. The property has never been officially on the market. It was sold privately to the current owners, and it is for sale now for $85 million.
$85 million, wow. So let me ask you, we travel the country finding the best realtors in every city where the show airs now in 20 plus cities. And with some of these realtors, they're all experts in their micro markets or their niche. But when you're talking about luxury real estate, it's one thing to talk about the market, but what about the marketing? How do you market an $85 million listing?
Well, you have to reach out internationally. Coldwell Banker has 84,000 agents around the world, and I travel internationally to market my properties. I was the first realtor to go to China in 2010. I have tremendous contacts all over the world. We have a wonderful connection with Hamptons International in London, with Corcoran in New York. And to market a property of this size, you have to be worldwide.
Sure. So, I mean, you're talking old school. You're actually flying to these countries and meeting with the potential buyers?
In many occasions, yes. I was just in Hong Kong, and I met a buyer who wrote an offer on the spot.
Now, when they're making these offers, are these cash buyers?
In most cases, yes.
And what do you think their goals tend to be? Do they want it as a second home, third home, 10th home? Are they looking to hold on to it and sell? I mean, everybody wants to know what's happening with the lifestyles of the rich and famous. Who's buying these properties? What are they doing with them?
Well, most international buyers do have multiple houses, and they spend time in different parts of the world. Often people come because their children are at USC or UCLA, or they have family here,
well, Joyce,
which is very good for me.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. You're a wealth of knowledge, been in this business for 40 plus years, closed over $4 billion. And I know you're going to be continuing to add to those numbers. Thank you so much for coming on The American Dream. I hope our audience can visit you online, learn more about you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And as a reminder, we love to advocate for you, whether you're buying or selling real estate. It doesn't have to always be in that high-end stuff. Median price, if you're a vet, you want to buy a home, first-time home buyer, move-up buyer, look, we have resources for you. All you got to do is email me any questions you have. I'll be happy to connect you in any city. Just email me, Craig@craigsewing.com. And don't forget, we always encourage you to follow the story on social media as well. All right, more of the show coming up next. How to go from satisfied to amplified. Nobody better to speak to this topic than the CEO of Amanda Bucci, Inc. Amanda Bucci, also host of a podcast. And I mean, you got like a mile-long list of things that you're doing, very active, all summarized by you're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Out there hustling.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, no, I always love these types of segments that are health and wellness because you can't be successful if you don't feel good, right? So this is kind of what you focus on. Tell us a little bit about your podcast. Let's start there.
Yeah, so the podcast started essentially as a way for me to just talk for a longer period of time. So I actually got started on Instagram and YouTube, and I was making videos and making posts, but something about me just likes to talk. Yeah. So I really wanted to start the podcast so I can interview people and then have my own segments just all about health, wellness, entrepreneurship, success, personal development, essentially just a way to go from satisfied in your life to amplified and reaching your full potential. That's why, that's what I feel like I was put on this world to do, is to really show people what's possible for them.
Okay, so how do you become amplified?
You know, there's a lot of different things that you can do. So my personal story is I was living in Rhode Island. I'm from there. I moved to LA about 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And I was in nursing school. And nursing is an incredible, incredible career. But as a college kid, a 19-year-old, picking what my major was going to be, I figured out the only things I knew about myself. I was good at science, and I really wanted to help people. Okay. And that seemed like the thing to do. But I never really had that fire inside of me. And I truthfully feel that everybody can find that fire inside of them some way, somehow. But I also feel as though a lot of people feel comfortable and they feel content without that because they don't understand what their value is and they don't understand what the life has to offer them. So I moved to LA and I created all these opportunities for myself, just being on social media, building a presence, building a platform. I became a fitness coach, doing all of these really incredible things that I didn't even know was available to me. And from that, I was able to understand that my potential and my upper limit of happiness and joy in life could go from here to here to here to here, slowly but surely. And I was teaching people what I was doing online. So with the podcast, it's really just an expansion of that.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's what I've been doing over the last couple years.
So what advice would you give to somebody who's getting into that space? It gets really noisy online, right? It's a great platform, but it's tough to really separate yourself. You've done a great job of that. What are some of your key ingredients?
There's a couple of different things. So I think a lot of people get on and they see what works and they think they have to just replicate that because they don't truthfully know what they have to offer, especially when you're getting started. Maybe you're a new health coach, maybe you're in whatever niche that you're just getting started. And it can feel really like you have to just copy what everyone else is doing because you see it working. And then you start to lose your own voice. So what I tell people to do is really hone in on what your own voice is, what your story is, what your message is, and your message really does come from your story and what you've experienced in life, right? And that's why you're passionate about certain things. So your authenticity comes through when you really hone in on what you're passionate about, what your story is, what your message is, and who you want to help and who you want to lead. You have to really hone in on those few things to stand out, and the best way to stand out is to be as authentic as possible. But people don't know how to be that.
Well, it's also the easiest thing to duplicate. Right? For better or for worse. I think people prefer imperfection than they do perfectly scripted or anything like that. Talk to me about some of your better guests, because you mentioned that you're interviewing other people that are in this space, or I'm sure in a variety of spaces. Who are you bringing on, and what have you really liked?
Yeah, so I brought on a couple of different people. I like to bring on people that just have something really awesome to offer my audience. And at the end of the day, the podcast isn't just for me, but it's for the people that are listening, the listeners.
Right.
How is it going to be valuable to them? So that's what I'm looking for in interview guests. So people that not only have their own incredible story, like I brought someone on, his name is Yahya Bakar. He is incredible. He should be on this show. I'll bring him on.
He's got a cool name.
Yeah, he's amazing. He is a motivational speaker. He's been a motivational speaker for 8 years. He's spoken to schools, elementary schools, but he has the most energy of anybody that I've ever seen, and he is just such a giving energy. He talks all about how to share your story. So he's been absolutely incredible. There's been a lot of different types of people. So relationship experts, business experts, entrepreneurs, people just that have a story that show people what's possible for them as well. At the end of the day, I think so many people think that their potential is so low because in our society, we're essentially trained to fall in line, right? We're not trained to stand out. We're not trained to live our most authentic lives at the highest level possible. So when people realize, oh, I can do this too, it's the most incredible thing.
What's next for you?
What's next for me? Really expanding the podcast. I really want to expand just my message and getting it spread across the world and to more people. This is an awesome opportunity. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, we're glad to have you.
Yeah, I know.
What I love about podcasters and people like you is you make my job easy. It's like, here's the beach ball, just bat it around a little bit. It's fun to have you on.
Yeah.
But so you want to spread the podcast?
Yeah, spreading the podcast and just spreading my message of the fact that people can live their dream life if they truly want to. And there's a couple of different layers to that. Number one is getting them to realize. Number two is giving them the tools to actually go do it. And number three is showing them how to sustain it. So that's what I've been teaching people now.
How do we follow you?
Instagram is the best place, at Amanda Bucci, super easy. Bucci Radio podcast as well.
Awesome. Ball of energy.
Yeah,
love it.
Thanks,
Amanda. Follow her. She's great. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Craig.
All right, more of The American Dream coming up next.
Hi, I'm Sarah, co-host of The American Dream. If you want to check out more episodes, segments, or interviews, you can check us out online. You can also follow us on social media. Stay up to date with all things The American Dream.
That's all for today's show. Hey, don't forget, we're way more active online than what you see on cable. Make sure you follow us there as well on social media. Do it on your phone. Just do it. You're thinking about it. Do it. Go to your phone. AmericanDreamNetwork.tv. We'd love to hear from you. Engage in the conversation. Of course, cheers to your American Dream. See you next time.